Jorge Quezada. I am the Vice President of People and Culture at Granite Construction, Inc. I've been in the industry now in construction for 2.5 years, going on 3 years, but I've had close to 35 years of corporate experience. 25 of them have been in the business, and about 10 years or so plus in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a man, that's a great question. I would tell you, let me say this. I didn't realize the biases I had in the industry when it came to women. That's why when you asked me the question about when you asked me about a man, so when my son was 4 years old, I dressed him up as Bob the Builder to go to a Halloween parade, and I dressed my daughter as Minnie Mouse. And when I came into the industry, I didn't realize that even though I was in this diversity, equity, and inclusion space, that I still had biases about what I expected my daughter to be. But then I also had these biases of what I thought my son could become. And so it was easy for me to dress him as Bob the Builder. It was no big deal. I didn't want to dress him up as Mickey Mouse. I wanted him to be Bob the Builder. So I think that would be the one that when you ask your question, that coming into the industry, I realized, wait a minute, I have to step back a little bit here and evaluate how I view the industry before I even think about the work that we were trying to do around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I would tell you that there are times that we ask ourselves, can I make a difference? There are times when we feel like we want to take the intent that's in our hearts and in our minds and take action. And becoming a member of Women in Asphalt is one of those moments. It's a defining moment, I think, because if you want to make an impact, not just have intent, if you want to change the way things are today and possibly into the future, an organization like Women of Asphalt is probably the best organization in the industry to make that change. Great question, because I think the future looks like whatever we want it to be. And I think we have to take the limiting beliefs that we may have about women in the industry and just put them aside and challenge ourselves to think 20, 30 years out and ask ourselves, if we had 30, 40% of women in the industry, what would the industry look like? And work backwards. And so to me, it's limitless. But we have to take away the limiting beliefs that we create around what's possible. Similar to the question around what does it look like into the future, I think we have to stop thinking about the industry or construction as just being men focused and think about get a broader scope of what's possible. Without that, I don't think we can even think about the first steps of what to do. I think so much of what we've created has been because we've had a long history, right, of having a certain gender in the role. And so as more women come into the industry, we have to change our mindset of what's possible. I think it's twofold question for me. I think the easy answer is to say for the industry to go to the grade schools and talk to the kids. But I think we also have a responsibility to educate society as a whole of what is the opportunity for women in the asphalt industry. I think we have to tell that story, because in the absence of us telling that story, someone else will tell that story for us. And what will happen is all the good work that's being done at the schools, then the little girl is going to go home and she's going to hear from an uncle and aunt, and it's like, you don't want to go into that industry because it's not for women. So we have to do a job of telling our story and telling about the opportunities, telling people about what a great career you could have in an industry like asphalt, to raise a family, to buy a home, to be really part of the middle class. I don't think we've done that collectively. And I think that's really the opportunity that's at hand for us. So to me, it's twofold. Yes, let's go into the schools. Yes, let's educate those kids, right? But more importantly, let's do a better branding of what the opportunities are. Wow, yeah, I think about, I think when we were kids, right? All of us had this opportunity to play with toys and build things and create things, create like an environment, a world that we wanted to play in and live in. I think as adults, that's the environment that we have, the opportunity that we have. In the construction industry, what I'm finding is that we have people who take ideas, put them on paper, and then we have people that take what's on paper and actually make it happen. And so to me, I think it's like we can't lose that kid in us. This industry gives us that opportunity to continue that. I think the proudest is moments like today, like moments of being in a panel. Not only are we celebrating, Women's History Month, for one. Number two, we're talking about women in asphalt. Number three, I'm part of a panel, a group of dynamic women. And so for me, it's knowing that we're convening a session to talk about what's possible in an industry like asphalt. So I'm not one that looks back a lot, but I'm someone who actually takes a moment like today and sees, what we're planning here. What is that garden going to look like in the future? And so to me, like we are going to look back 5 years from now, right? I'm just mark my words because it's on film now, right? Mark my words. We're going to live 5 years from now. We're going to ask, why was the asphalt industry so successful of bringing women and people of color into the industry? And I'm telling you, it's going to be because we're going to come back and we're going to say, because in Nashville, we had a conversation about what we could do to make a difference. So that, I would tell you, what gets me geeked up about this work. I think overall, I think there's like two buckets of work. I think we have to do a better job of noticing the differences. We have to do a better job of understanding people, specifically women, and we have to know how to act on what we understand and what we notice. Then the other thing is we have to have this belief that something is possible when we're having conversations like we're having around bringing more women into asphalt. We have to have confidence that we can create what we want to become, right? And then we should be creating an environment where not just women, people of color feel like they belong. And I think sometimes what we try to do is we try to make it so complex, but in those two buckets of work, if we can really notice, understand, and act, and give people the opportunity to have belief, show them what they can become, and then ultimately, when you think about that, how they belong, I think we can go far in this industry.